Welcome to Read Aloud with Rara. Rara Story Time is a fun time. Subscribe and don't miss the stories. The Woodcutter and the Magic Leaves. Story written by Rara. Illustration Vignesh Saravanan. Editing Vignesh Govindaraj. Once upon a time, there lived a woodcutter Ethan with his wife Naomi and children Peter and Sarah. He cut the trees in the nearby forest for his living. One day, as usual, he went to the forest. He went deep inside the forest in search of a big tree. He walked a long distance. Suddenly, his eyes opened wide and he was filled with joy. There, standing in front of him, was a huge old tree with a lot of branches. Overjoyed, he took his axe to cut the tree. Suddenly, he heard a voice. "Oh, woodcutter, stop! Please don't cut me!" pleaded the old tree. The woodcutter was taken aback. A speaking tree? He thought to himself. He was speechless for a while and then said, "Oh, old tree, I understand your pain. I pity you. But this is my job. I sell wood and live. If I start to spare trees, my family and I will end up without any food. I'm sorry." After saying this, he took his axe again to chop the tree. The tree spoke again. "Oh, woodcutter, if that's your problem, I can help you." The woodcutter looked at the tree and asked, "You, a tree? How can you help me? Don't try to fool me." The tree said, "Oh, woodcutter, I will give you 10 magic leaves. I have been saving these for many years. These leaves will make your wishes come true." The woodcutter was angry. "Don't tell me those stories. I don't believe in magic." The tree, sounding friendlier, said, "Believe me, I have saved these leaves for many years now. Take them with you and lead a good and rich life." The woodcutter thought for a while and replied, "Okay, give them to me." The old tree gave the leaves to him and said, "Close your eyes and make a wish. It will come true." The tree stopped for a couple of seconds and continued, "Be careful and do not drop the leaves down." The tree added in a warning tone, "If anyone knows that you own these magic leaves, they may kill you and your family. So don't tell this to anyone." The woodcutter reached home with the leaves. His wife was waiting outside for him. When he came closer to his home, his wife asked, "Where are the bread loaves for dinner?" He was feeling a bit shameful for coming home with only the leaves. But he narrated the whole story to his wife Naomi and gave the leaves to her. "What are you talking? Children are waiting for food and you are telling me some weird story." Naomi hailed and threw the leaves down. Ethan was very angry. He shouted, "Naomi, why did you throw the leaves? The old tree said not to drop them down." They were shouting at one another, but by now the 10 leaves which fell down and turned to 10 dwarfs. Ethane looked at them with surprise. As if to add to his surprise, one of the dwarfs started speaking. "Oh Lord, my name is Renta. I'm the eldest in this group, and we were living in the nearby woods. Sadly, the old magical tree captured us and turned us into leaves. Each one of us were changed into leaves to fulfill the wishes of the person who owns these leaves. We have to fulfill wishes and should eventually die. And you, instead of wishing, dropped us down and gave us lives. We will stay with you." The frustrated woodcutter put his hands on his head and sat down. Naomi, his wife, who was watching all this, started yelling, "Oh my God! We ourselves are struggling very hard for a living. How can we feed the 10 of you? Leave this place immediately." "Oh lady, don't worry. We will work for you. Give us a little food to share among us," Renta said politely. On hearing this, Ethane and Naomi discussed and Naomi answered, "Okay, you can stay with us, but you should do whatever we say without any questions." "Okay, we will just follow your orders," agreed Renta and the other dwarfs. Days went by. The dwarfs worked hard, but Naomi and Ethane behaved very rudely with them. Still, the dwarfs never got angry. One day, the woodcutter and the dwarfs were cutting the trees in the forest. Suddenly, they heard a voice shouting out for help. "Help! Help!" They followed the voice and reached the spot. "Help! Help!" A woman was stuck and trapped in a pit. It was a deep pit. The woodcutter said, "We are leaving this place. The pit is deep. It's already late and getting dark. Not safe to stay here anymore." But the good Renta refused to go with the woodcutter. "Wait, woodcutter. What about this lady? We can't leave her alone." The woodcutter was angry. "No, we have to leave now. You had agreed to follow my orders. Let's first leave the place." Renta was adamant. "It's inhuman. We can't leave her in the forest alone." Saying this, Renta jumped into the pit. Immediately, the next one jumped on his shoulder. Then, one by one, the other dwarfs too jumped in a similar fashion. The lady climbed on them and came out of the pit. By the time a few soldiers and an elderly person reached the place, they helped the dwarfs to come out of the pit. The elderly person turned to the dwarfs and said, "Dwarfs, I'm the minister of the Deborah kingdom. Thank you for saving our princess Nora." The woodcutter and the dwarfs were astonished and were happy to see the princess. Renta bowed in front of the princess and said, "Oh princess, it's our pleasure to save you. If you don't mind, shall we know why you came deep inside the forest?" The minister interrupted and said, "She came in search of the magic leaves." On hearing this, the dwarfs looked at one another and smiled, saying, "Magic leaves?" The princess, who was exhausted by climbing, took some time and started to speak. "Yes, the magic leaves from an old tree in this forest. Those leaves will make any wish come true. Our old court minister used to tell us about the magic leaves." After saying this, the princess turned angry. She ordered to her soldiers, "Take this woodcutter and chop his head. The cruel man who was not ready to save a trapped woman. On hearing this order, all the dwarfs immediately knelt before the princess and begged, "Oh, princess, please pardon him. We beg you." "Okay, I will spare him for you. I like your kindness and your bravery, dwarfs. By the way, could you all help me to find the magic leaves?" The dwarfs revealed that they were the magic leaves. They told her how they were captured, changed, and got their original forms. The princess was happy. She said, "You saved me. I name you as the lucky 10 dwarfs. Come with me to the palace." Brenta said, "Sorry, princess. We would like to stay in the forest with the woodcutter and his family." The princess raised her eyebrows and said, "With this cruel woodcutter? You want to refuse the luxuries of the palace?" "Yes," said the dwarfs and humbly continued, "This poor woodcutter saved us and gave us life. He shared his little food with us. We are working for him, and if we leave, it will be difficult for him. We will stay with him. Sorry for not heeding to your request. In that case, at least accept this bag of gold and live by yourself. Don't be with this woodcutter," said the princess, and grabbed a bag of gold from her minister and graciously gave it to the dwarfs. The dwarf handed the gold back to the woodcutter and said, "Take this bag. I think you don't need us anymore. We will leave you." The woodcutter was ashamed of his act and behavior, but also moved by the dwarf's loyalty and love. "My wife and I were extremely rude and treated you as slaves, but you dwarfs are so kind to us. I am ashamed. Please forgive me. Stay with us." Saying this, the woodcutter cried heavily. The dwarfs were moved by his words and agreed to stay with him and his family. "You are gifted to have these dwarfs with you," said the princess, and left the forest. From then on, the dwarfs, the woodcutter, and his family lived happily and were always kind to each other.